Aerial lift training. The objectives of this training are to provide information regarding aerial lift safety and training requirements, define aerial device, aerial lift, and scissor lift, describe the inspection criteria for lifts, and requirements to evaluate operators for competency. Aerial and scissor lift definitions. Aerial lift, an aerial device that's used to elevate personnel to job sites above ground, including extendable boom platforms, aerial ladders, articulating boom platforms, and vertical towers. A scissor lift is a mobile supported scaffold which can be powered or unpowered, is portable, and caster or wheel mounted. OSHA covers the use of aerial lifts in CFR 1926.459 and 1926.454. OSHA classifies scissor lifts as mobile scaffolds and covers them under CFR 1926.451 and 1926.452W and 1926.454. The use of fall protection is required when using both lift devices. Types of aerial lifts. Aerial lifts include the following types of vehicle-mounted aerial devices used to elevate employees to job sites above ground: an extendable boom platform, an articulating boom platform, and a scissor lift. Extendable boom platform. An extendable boom platform uses a single arm to lift the platform to the desired height, often by hydraulics or less frequently pneumatic pressure. The length of the arm limits the reach of the boom lift. Some boom lifts can extend the reach by telescoping sections within the arm. Articulating boom platform operates in much the same way as the normal boom lift, except it consists of at least one joint in the arm. This joint allows the arm to be twice as long. Some are capable of rotating on an axis at the base or even on the second arm. The second arm can extend horizontally as well as vertically to reach overcrowded and difficult areas. This lift provides great access to difficult areas. Scissor lift. Scissor lifts are another common type of aerial work platform. The parts that elevate the platform contain crossing, interlocking members. When pressure is applied to the outside of the lowest set of supports through hydraulic, pneumatic, or mechanical means, the crossing supports lengthen to raise the platform. Scissor lifts usually cannot reach as high as a boom, although some may reach up to 40 or 50 feet high. Training requirements. The following are the training requirements for aerial work platforms. Personnel must be instructed in the nature of any lift hazards, electrical hazards, fall hazards, and falling object hazards in the work area. Personnel must be instructed in the correct procedures for dealing with electrical hazards and for erecting, maintaining, and disassembling the fall protection systems and falling object protection systems being used. Personnel must be instructed in the correct procedure for moving, operating, repairing, and inspecting and maintaining the type of lift. Personnel must be instructed in the proper use of the lift and proper handling of materials on the lift. Personnel must know the maximum intended load and the load carrying capacity of the lift used and any additional requirements set by the manufacturer. Retraining requirements. Retraining is required when there are changes in the work site that present a hazard which was not previously known to the employees, changes in the type of lift, fall protection, falling object protection, or other equipment that present a hazard which was not previously known to the employee, and where inadequacies in an affected employee's work involving lifts indicate that the employee has not retained the requisite proficiency. Lift selection. When selecting a lift, there are some important issues that must be considered. The type of work being performed, the terrain in which the lift will be utilized, the number of employees and equipment needed, and the location within the mill or facility. Inspections. There are two main inspections that must be done when using an aerial lift device. A pre-start inspection of the lift must be performed before each use and an inspection of the work site in which the lift will be utilized. Pre-start inspections include operating and emergency controls, the boom, guardrails, the hydraulic system, the outriggers if equipped, emergency stop buttons, tires, safety guards and sensors, and the emergency descent system. Worksite inspection items include the surface on which the lift will be used, hazards that might create dangerous driving conditions, weather conditions, and additional inspections may be required by the manufacturer. Aerial lift inspections. Lifts must be inspected daily prior to use. Always refer to the operator's manual to ensure that all necessary components are inspected. This checklist is an example of the minimum inspection criteria for most lifts. Work area inspection. It is also important to inspect your work area prior to operating an aerial work platform. Things to look for are drop-offs, holes, or unstable surfaces such as loose dirt, inadequate ceiling heights, slopes, ditches, or bumps, debris and floor obstructions, overhead electric power lines and communication cables, other overhead obstructions, other hazardous locations and atmospheres, high wind and other severe conditions such as ice, and the presence of others in close proximity to the work. You'll notice that the photo on the right shows a dock edge which poses a hazard if the lift is operated near the edge. Hazards associated with aerial lifts. The following hazards, among others, can lead to personal injury or death. Fall from elevated level, objects falling from lifts, tip overs, ejections from the lift platform, structural failure such as a collapse, an electric shock such as an electrocution, entanglement hazards, contact with objects, and contact with ceilings and other overhead objects. Other hazards associated with aerial lifts include overhead protection. You must be aware of the overhead clearance and overhead objects including ceilings, piping, cable trays, and other objects. When operating a lift, keep your hands inside the basket and/or platform. This will reduce the risk of your hands being caught in between an overhead object and the top rail of the lift when the equipment is operated. This photo shows where a lift basket or platform comes in contact with a pipe. If your hand was in that area, it would have been pinched and you would have suffered an injury. Most lifts are equipped with various safety features. Never remove or use these features for any reason other than specified by the manufacturer. Lifts should never be modified without written permission from the manufacturer or other equivalent entity. If modified, the lift must be at least as safe as before it was modified. Only authorized persons should operate an aerial or scissor lift. Belting off to an adjacent pole, structure, or equipment while working from the lift is not permitted. Employees should always stand firmly on the floor of the lift. They should not sit or climb on the basket or guardrails or use planks, ladders, or other items to attain a higher work position. The operator must know the total load of the lift, including tools, supplies, and other employees. The weight of the load should be within the manufacturer's suggested maximum safe working load. The load must also be balanced on the lift. Overloading or unbalanced loads can cause the lift to fail or potentially tip over while in operation. This could result in a serious injury, fatality, and/or property damage. Aerial work platforms, sometimes called JLGs, genie lifts, or man lifts, must have platform and lower controls. Platform controls must be in or beside the platform within easy reach of the operator. Lower controls should be able to override the platform controls, but should not be used unless permission has been obtained from the employees in the lift or in case of emergency. Before moving an aerial lift for travel, the boom or booms must be properly cradled and outriggers must be in a stowed position. For scissor lifts, never raise the platform while the lift is on a truck or other vehicle. Employees should never ride on a scissor lift unless the following conditions exist. The surface on which the lift is being moved is within 3 degrees of level and free of pits, holes, and obstructions. The height to base width ratio of the lift during movement is 2:1 or less, unless the lift is designed and manufactured to meet or exceed recognized stability test requirements. The lift does not travel more than 1 foot per second, and no employee is on any part of the lift which extends outward beyond the wheels. Fall protection. All personnel using an aerial work platform shall wear a harness and lanyard that is properly anchored. If the lift is used according to manufacturer's guidelines and all safety precautions are being followed, the chance of any fall is minimal. All lifts require fall protection and guardrails that are properly designed, maintained, and meet OSHA requirements. Fall protection. Most lifts contain a restraining point which is designed to attach to a personal fall arrest system or restraining device. If no anchor point is available, refer to the operator's manual to determine the best point to tie off. Tie off to an adjacent structure is not allowed due to the possibility of being pulled out when the lift is moved. Shutdown procedures. Lift should be lowered and safely resting on its supports. Secure the lift to its supports to ensure that it does not move while it is being transported. Raise the outriggers if applicable. Shut off the power supply to the lift and outriggers. Remove pads used for outriggers and wheel chocks. Remove the key from the ignition to prevent any unauthorized use of the lift. Note, if the key is to be left in the ignition, ensure that the supervisor is notified. Follow any additional site procedures. Aerial lift operator evaluation. Once you have completed this video, you will be required to go through a hands-on evaluation for lift operators. Further instruction on the specific type of lift will be provided by your evaluator. The following areas will be evaluated by a qualified person. Qualified person will review the pre-use inspection with the potential operator and document those findings on the checklist. The evaluator will observe the operator donning the appropriate PPE, such as fall protection, hard hat, safety glasses, safety boots, and verify that the operator uses a 3-point contact when mounting and dismounting the lift. The evaluator will observe the operator traveling using the lift. They will ensure that the operator assesses the work area, verifies the stability of the lift, observes the operator booming up, down, in, out, If the equipment is an articulating boom, they will observe that as well. Further, the evaluator will observe the employee traveling with the lift in a lowered position, observe the employee turning the equipment, observe the employee maneuvering the equipment at a slow and steady pace, observe the employee if they are traveling in the direction they are facing, observe the employee using outriggers if equipped, and observing the employee shutting down the equipment and using the emergency stop function. The operator must also demonstrate their ability to fully lower the aerial lift, neutralize the controls, set the brakes, turn off the power, and park the lift in a designated area. If there are other behaviors to be observed on that job site, the evaluator will include those as well. Once the evaluation has been completed by the evaluator, both the evaluator and the operator must sign the evaluation form.